Martin. Come on, Martin. Let's be reasonable here. You can't do this. You just can't do this. So, Martin Scorsese, one of the most celebrated film directors of all time, he's currently trying to get his new movie funded, Killers of the Flower Moon. Well, it's based on the book Killers of the Flower Moon, The Osage Murders, and the Birth of the FBI, and I've never read the book. I don't know much about the story, but apparently it's about the Osage Indians in Oklahoma in the 1920s that, I guess, after oil deposits were found on their land, I guess there was like a court battle, and the Osage people were supposed to be getting money from the profits of the oil deposits, from the people who administrate these oil deposits. And I guess the book explores how the people who were administrating the oil deposits were not exactly pleased with the fact that these Osage Indians were seeing some of their money, and I guess they plotted to kill the Indians. I don't know. I'm literally just reading from the Wikipedia article. Again, I don't know how much of this is like proven to be real or anything, so I'm not making any claims about this, but honestly, it seems like an interesting story. I would like to see this turned into a film. I think Martin Scorsese would make a fantastic film with this premise. So you might be asking yourself, well, what's the problem, man? You called the video the problem with Martin Scorsese. So what's the problem? I don't see any problems here. Well, dear viewer, the problem is that Martin Scorsese wants, wait for it, $200 million. He wants that to be the budget. $200 million. Why? Okay, now here's the thing. This is a movie set in 1920s Oklahoma. Why would you need $200 million? I don't know. I genuinely don't understand what he could possibly be wanting to do with this film that would warrant $200 million. And I've seen people trying to say that oh well, it's a period film, and period films cost money. They have to remake the 1920s. It's really expensive to do that. And it's yeah, no, I get it. It can be pretty costly to try to accurately recreate a certain time period. But $200 million? No. Just no. It does not need to be that expensive. Sets, you can, I don't see why he shouldn't be able to make this movie for $85 million. Maybe in the low 100 million area, maybe 120. I don't see why he needs $200 million to make this movie. It's completely ridiculous. And by the way, he went through the same exact thing with The Irishman. He made The Irishman for $160 million, and no studio would pick it up. Because why would a studio pick up a mobster movie for $160 million when that's obviously going to flop? And now, I actually haven't seen The Irishman yet. I know, I'm a piece of garbage. But I ask those of you that have seen it, did it really need to? Did they really need the whole de-aging thing? Would it have really made the movie that much worse if they just casted younger actors? I mean, that's an honest question because I haven't seen it yet. Did you feel that the whole de-aging process was necessary for the movie to be as good as it was. And I mean, as far as I can tell, there wouldn't even need to be anything like that in his movie. What's it called again? The moon that's a flower or something like that. Like, as far as I can tell, there's really nothing like the de-aging technology that he used in The Irishman. Like, there wouldn't be any need for anything like that in this movie. Like, what's he gonna do? Is he gonna turn Leonardo DiCaprio into a literal fetus? Is he gonna de-age him into a literal fetus? Is that what he's gonna do? Are the Indians gonna come in through portals like in the end of Endgame? And is there gonna be a big war with the oil people? I don't know. Like, what could he possibly want to do that he needs $200 million? I don't know. I honestly can't think of what he could possibly be wanting to do with this movie that would warrant that kind of money. And now listen, I have not read the book, nor have I read Martin's script. Maybe if I read the book and I read the script, I will go, hey, there's no way that you can do this without a $200 million budget. Maybe? Perhaps? But I kind of doubt it. And so, of course, pretty much no studio is wanting to pick up his movie, so it's being reported that Martin is actually trying to get Apple to fund his movie for Apple TV. And I have no idea if he tried to get Netflix to fund this as well, since they funded The Irishman. Although, honestly, I don't even know if Netflix would even want to dump $200 million onto his new movie, because, I guess The Irishman, it did bring them it brought prestige to Netflix, but I don't think that The Irishman, got people to subscribe to Netflix in droves, in order to make it, really worth their time to, and money, mostly money, actually, in order to make it worth their money to drop all of the money, all of that, $160 million into one movie. I don't think The Irishman attracted all that many people to Netflix. So the idea of them now wanting to drop another $200 million on this movie, I don't even see Netflix doing it. Apple TV, on the other hand, that's another story, because obviously Apple has plenty of money. If they wanted to do this, they could, and they are actively trying to get Apple TV is just starting out, and they're trying to draw people into it. So, and they're still small enough that a Martin Scorsese movie probably would bring a good amount of people to subscribe to Apple TV. So it actually might be in their interest to maybe spend this insane amount of money on Martin Scorsese's project, but I don't know. It might even be a stretch for Apple to want to spend all that money on this thing. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, that is the problem with Martin Scorsese. He is, and I'm just being honest here, he's completely delusional. He is refusing to come to terms with reality and accept that his movies just don't draw that many people to come to the theater. They just don't. His highest grossing film is The Wolf of Wall Street, and it made around $390 million. And that's good. That's good for that movie, but that wouldn't be good enough for a $200 million movie. And is there really any reason to expect Killers of the Flower Moon to make even $390 million? No, not really. That's not real. I don't think that's really the type of film that's gonna draw that many people. And, I don't want to bring up the whole, Marvel controversy again, but I actually do think that it is kind of pertinent to the situation, because, most people talked about his comments saying that Marvel movies aren't cinema, but what not as many people talked about were his comments regarding the impact of Marvel movies on cinema.
My concern is losing the screens to massive theme park films, which I say again, are their own new art form. Cinema now is changing. We have so many venues. There are so many ways to make films. So enjoyable, fine. Go, and it's an event. And it's great to go to an event like an amusement park. But don't crowd out Greta Gerwig, and don't crowd out Paul Thomas Anderson and Noah Baumbach and those people. Just don't, in terms of theaters.
You know, he has this, again, deluded belief that Marvel movies are like pushing other, and honestly, I don't even think he's just talking about Marvel movies. I think he's talking about big blockbusters, if not comic book movies as a whole. You know, I think he has this deluded belief that comic book movies or blockbusters are like pushing other types of movies out and not letting them, and you know, like he's pushing them out and studios aren't wanting to make them. I think that's what he believes, but it's just simply not true. Like, I think he has this belief that the reason why studios didn't want to make The Irishman was because, you know, it wasn't a comic book movie and it wasn't going to make as much money as a comic book movie. When, in reality, the reason why they didn't want to make The Irishman was just because you're asking for too much money. And the reason why they don't want to make, I keep on forgetting the name of the movie, Killers of the Flower Moon. The reason why they don't want to make Killers of the Flower Moon is because you're just asking for too much money. Like, Martin, it's not that studios don't want to make your movies. It's that you're making it impossible for studios to want to make your movies. I mean, look at Blumhouse. Blumhouse is making, you know, what's the guy's name? David Blum, I think is his name. Hold on, let me look this up. I'm not going to edit this out. You guys are going to sit here with me as I look this up. Jason Blum, that's his name. Jason Blum, he basically just looks between his couch cushions, picks up like spare change, he throws it at a director and says, go make a movie. And, you know, his movies have modest budgets and they make modest earnings, but they are profitable. They are very profitable. He's not making $200 million period dramas. He's just not. So, and to be fair, I do think that, I keep on forgetting the name of this movie, or of the book, Killers of the Flower Moon. To be fair, I don't think you can make that movie on a Blumhouse budget, because you are going to have to, you know, make a bunch of sets or whatever to, you know, recreate the feel of 1920s Oklahoma. So to be fair, you probably could have made that on a Blumhouse budget, but you can definitely make it for less than $200. I just refuse to believe that you need that much money for this movie. And so I guess to close this video off, I will end it by saying this. Martin, it's not that studios just want to make comic book movies and don't want to make your movies. It is that studios want to make your movies, but you are making it impossible for studios to make your movies. Goodbye.